Well, welcome back to the channel. We got a beautiful second gen Cummins in today that we got quite a bit of work to do on. We actually have taken care of this truck for quite a while. We've added quite a few upgrades over the few years. Started off with an injection pump, 175 horse injectors, dynamite diesel, Smeed, big old turbo. And it's time to get this thing studded before we get crazy. So stay tuned, because it's going to be fun. So what do we have to do to this thing? Well, the first thing, we're going to drain the coolant. Before I drain this coolant, I really evaluate whether I really want to drain that pitcock on the bottom of the radiator. You know that little drain, that little plastic piece underneath there that likes to break? Yeah, it looks brittle. We're not going to mess with that. So we're going to pull the hose off on the passenger side down in here to be able to drain it, because it's a lot safer route, I've found. Then we're going to get set up to yank the head off, replace the head gasket, put some head studs in it. We got a Fass 165 that's going to go on here, and also a Edge Juice with Attitude on this truck, and that's going to finish it out for this trip. But we'll take you all along for the ride for everything we're going to do here. Probably do the little time lapse, but one thing I'm super excited about, super excited about, is I noticed I popped the hood and I'm like, man, there's a lot of room between the valve cover and a body. Why is that? Well, it's got a body lift on it. So this is going to be the first time we've actually got to do one that has a body lift, and I think it's going to make it so much easier. We might even be getting the push rods out of it without pulling a little caps that's up underneath the windshield cowl. We'll see, but I'm pretty excited. So starting out, we're going to pull this hose off. Safest route I know of to drain this thing out. You start messing around with that little plastic piece on the driver's side and it just doesn't seal back or it breaks, you're into putting a new radiator in it. No thanks. So we're going to yank the hose off the front of the turbo on the intake side. We're going to get down here and yank off this hose and let it drain and get right back after it. Well, we got most of the bucket. Not all of it, but most of it. We needed a much bigger pan. We got a drip pan outside too. Great big one. Probably would have kept it small, this mess in the floor. Yeah. So that hose come off all of a sudden. It was spraying way over here. Like I said, we got most of it in the pan and most of it not. Okay, we'll get this up in oil dry. No big deal. Fun times. All right, we got this head ready to pull off. We got all the bolts out. We got the manifold laid over off the side. Chain hooked up. And everything on this side ready to rock. We got our cherry picker here. We're going to grab a hold of this thing, yank it out. Quick little hack. The box that the head gasket set usually comes in, I use that to keep the oil from dripping on the floor. And it works great. A lot better than putting oil dry down and stepping through it. All right, we got the head back on it. The head studs in it. We got the rear line in the very back put back on. Definitely a must before you put the rocker arms on there, because it's a real pain in the butt to work around those. So we're gonna put the exhaust manifold back on it, finish out the fuel system, slap a valve cover on it, batten up the wiring, and then we're not gonna fill it with coolant because we still have to do a heater core. So best leave the coolant out, don't have to drain it again. We got a new dash to put in here also, because this one's pretty beat up. This guy here, well, that door's locked. Hang on. That dash, you can see, is beat up. And we've got, actually, instead of an overlay, we got a brand new one. So we'll yank the dash out, put the new heater core in, then put the coolant back in it. At that point, we'll probably move on to the Fass fuel system, get it plumbed and wired, ready to go. Then the last thing is the Edge CTS with attitude, or the Edge juice with attitude. So quite a ways to go yet, but we're getting closer. All right, we got the head studs in the truck. As stated, we got to replace the heater core. So we jumped straight into that. We got to adjust the valves yet. And a couple other things to finish up the head stud portion of that job. But we felt it was a great time to go ahead and jump in on this dash removal. And man, they come apart in pieces. You can see that the upper part of this dash is still attached all the way around. It come out in a bunch of pieces. So it's brittle. We got a brand new top cap, not a cover, an actual cap. We're going to finish getting this dash removed, getting the heater core done. Then we can go ahead and put the coolant back in it and finish everything out on the valves. Then move on to our Fass system. And then the last thing, we're going to do the Edge. So still a little ways to go, but we're making good progress. What a fight. We finally got this thing wrestled out of here. And you can see that thing was done. It took quite a bit to get this old dash back here far enough without breaking anything else, because you can see it's cracked here, here, here. We lost one section right there. Man, it was quite the battle without making more of a disaster piece, as we might call it. But it's out. And we are ready to put the new one in it. Well, we got the dash set back in here. Heater core's installed. Starting to plug things back in. We got to address these issues here with a little Gorilla Glue. Try and help this out. And we got to put one piece back in over here. Then we can put this dash cap back on, which is pretty cool. It's actually fiberglass. And I mean, it is a perfect reproduction, and I think it's going to look really good. So we're going to go ahead and fix these little cracks and then put this on. Okay, we got the dash in this thing completely put in. Fitment was pretty good. This is that fiberglass dash panel, so you got to be really careful when you tighten these. You'll start to hear some cracking and some things that don't make you feel good. But the dash looks much better than the one that came out of it. Everything went back together. Of course, we had to use some really soft touches not to break the inner part of this dash. But it's in here, it's done, and we're ready to move on to the outside stuff. We have to put the PCM bracket, hoses, and the PCM back on. Then it's on to finish the head studs, fill it with coolant. Of course, bleed the air out of the injection pump. Then, well, actually, we're probably going to wait on bleeding air on the injection pump, because we're going to put a Fass system on this, so we might as well do everything at one time. So we're getting really close. We're down to only 2 items left on this job. And the Edge box had already had one on it before, so a lot of the connections are still here. So it should be almost plug and play. So we're moving right along. Alrighty, we're back on the Dodge. We finally got the rest of her parts. We're waiting on this little guy, which is our connection for our 1/2-inch fuel line for our fuel pressure switch. For the Edge, we got the Edge mounted. It's in the truck. Back in there looking good. We got the Fass pump mounted. You see that guy up in there? All looking good, but we wanted to put a sump system on this because of the horsepower I wanted to go with. So we bought the XTP Mini, really nice product.
We got our drill with a hole saw, Allen wrench, and there's about a little over a quarter of a tank of fuel in here. So what we did on my mega cab is we had a big 35-gallon tank that actually fit underneath here. Well, that tank somehow started leaking around the outlet nozzle, so we're going to go this route. But they won't fit underneath, so we're going to jack the truck up, drill the hole, refer to the video on the mega cab on where not to drill this at, for sure. So we're going to move this a little farther up because YouTube was misleading. I'm going to take my own judgment and put it where I think it should be. Actually think where I put it the last time was the wrong place. Caused me a lot of extra work, so we're going to put it where I want to put it this time. Other than that, this thing's really ready to rock and roll again. All the stuff is in place. Man, it runs good, it drives good, but I just wanted to put that Fass system sump on, and then also the fuel pressure monitor. So we're going to get this done real quick and see how it goes. All right, we got her up on jack stands. We have our tallest fuel tank able to go underneath here. We're going to try not to make one hell of a mess. We got a Scotch-Brite pad. We're going to figure out where the sump is at. It is right here. It's right here. We're going to draw a line. Do not drill here. Do not drill here. Directly underneath the fuel sump pickup from the original. A lot of people might disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. You might have a little bit of fuel slosh that might mess you up, but I don't think that's a big problem. Especially not when most of my guys don't run it below a quarter tank. So I'm going to set this camera up. See how big of a mess I can make. Yeah. All right, here's the line. We're gonna go in the center right here. Get this dust and mud off of here. We don't need that big of a space, but we're going to definitely give that fuel sump some room, because in the mega cab we run a hole right up the bottom of it. We had to drop the tank, all kinds of crazy stuff, and it sucked. I mean, it sucked. Really, really sucked. Okay. This will go underneath here. We're going to punch a pilot hole. Try not to drown. My wife laughed last time because I nearly drowned it. One more check of the sump. We're way off the side. Center of the tank. Yeah, right in here. Here we go, YouTube. Oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. What an amateur mistake. Now, hopefully, we don't have more than 10 gallons of fuel in here. If we do, we might be picking it up with a mop. Oil dry, everything else. So, you can see there, we're draining fuel. We got a little bit of fuel on the ground. Not a big deal. Our pump is right here. So our pickup line to come right out and right into here. Perfect and simple. All right, well, we got the fuel draining. We're going to go ahead and put in the place for our fuel pressure sensor. This is our blue line feeding our VP44. Right here, we're going to cut that in two. And then we're going to hook this up. Push the fittings in there nice and smooth, and then hook up our sensor. We're ready to rock and roll. Okay, you can see just as simple as that. We got it pushed in there, and that's ready to go. We're just waiting on our fuel tank to drain. Man, we judged this one pretty close by sound. There's 5 gallons, or about 5.5 gallons. We got the next one draining. So hopefully we're not more than that. All right, it looks like it's slowed to a drip. So we're gonna go ahead and slide this one out and see if we can drill this up in there and put our sump in. So, take this camera, something like that. Slide this out of our way. All right. Okay, we got our hole through the tank. We'll wipe out as much of this stuff as we can. Yep, right there. Right there was our fuel sending unit. The little float. It was right there close to it. We're going to take our knife and trim off this little burr, so we never get any of that in our Fass system. Nice and smooth all the way around. No deep scratches in the tank. We'll have to take this off. Don't lose it up in there. Now, carefully get this started. Sometimes you can take a finger and hold these. Sometimes you have to take a pick. This one we might have to take a pick to do it. There, we got it started. Get it pretty close. This takes a little bit of playing with it. Sometimes it's best to put it on an impact. Once you get it to where it'll hold on there, it's not that bad. Once you get a little bit of tension on it, this one's going to be a pain in the butt. So we're going to grab a impact and lightly spin that up there. All right. Hold a little bit of down pressure. Get this face where we want. Now, once we got it to where it's tight, being that's a stainless bolt going in aluminum, we like to hand tighten this so we know we're not over tightening. All right, wipe the residual fuel off. And this is a bottom of the sump. I like to actually put a hose clamp on this. Get my line bent where I like it. If I'd have been thinking ahead of time, I'd have grabbed my little cutting pliers. It would have made this much easier. Put our hose clamp on. And these fittings do get really tough to push it over that barb. Keep working with it, twisting it. And you can get it over that barb to where it's on there nice. And tighten your hose clamp. Now, we can put fuel in it and make sure we don't have any leaks. I'm going to wipe the floor up really good. Throw some fuel in it. Make sure that nothing's coming out. Probably had about 8 gallons of fuel in that tank, looks like. Don't see no drips yet. That was about a gallon, gallon and a half. I think we're going to be good to go. Turn this hose clamp a little bit. It's kind of pushing on that tank. I mean, theoretically, you don't have to put that hose clamp on. It's just reassurance. All right. We have got that little guy on there, and I don't see any leaks so far. So I think we're going to call that good. This turned out the way we want. Alrighty. I'll call that a win. Get this guy fired up, check fuel pressure. Alright, we got it filled back up with fuel. No drips on the ground. That's all from earlier. Last but not least, this being a VP44 pump, very, very fragile to air. We're going to turn the key on, break the fitting loose at the pump, make sure there's absolutely no air in the system. We do not want to pull this pump and fire it dry. So we're going to break this loose. We're going to get some fuel out of it, make sure we have no air, and we'll be ready to go. See, we're barely getting some drips right now. A little bit more, a little bit more. See, we're just getting drips. If we would have fired this dude up, we would have not had sufficient fuel pressure. Now we're getting a steady stream. So we've caught prime with our pump. And get this tightened back up. Now I hear the pump starting to prime up and hold pressure. Fire this guy up. See if our edge tells us if we got pressure. These things take a minute to turn on. All right, we're gonna have to add another gauge. Select new PID. We want fuel pressure, fuel level, coolant temp, lift pump, fuel PSI. We'll hit exit menu. We have 20 PSI. And it is fluctuating, so alright, I'm gonna turn this off. It does not want to turn off. Alright, we're going to work on this issue. Okay, continuous run issue. We had this test wire to our fuel pump. We're going to hook up to a light inside the cab to make sure we had the fuel pump running, like a green light. And I was in here messing around. I had pulled the ASD relay, and I was doing some electrical testing. Whatever reason, I had this wire laying here. I shoved the relay back down, and that ASD relay was actually made all the time, and it would not let the truck shut off when I turned the key off. Dumb and stupid mistake, but it happened. I'm going to tape this wire up for in the future, so when we can run this inside the cab for the green light. Other than that, we are ready to rock and roll and return this back to the customer.